Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Let us continue with our tafsir of Surah An-Nisaa bihawlillahi wa quwwatih. We are on ayah number 47. قال الله تعالى يا أيها الذين أوتوا الكتاب آمنوا بما نزلنا مصدقا لما معكم من قبل أن نطمس وجوها فنردها على أدبارها أو نلعنهم كما لعنا أصحاب السبت وكان أمر الله مفعولا. In this ayah, Allah Jalla wa Ala calls out to those who have been given the book, referring to the Yahud and Nasara, ordering them to believe, have iman in what we have sent down. So nazzalna. He says musaddiqan lima ma'akum. Musaddiqan is mansub bil fatha because it is a hal of that which has been sent down. What is being referred to as that which we have sent down? It is the Quran, of course. He says musaddiqan, meaning testifying or confirming with what is with you, O Yahud, of the Torah. How does the Quran confirm or testify to the Torah? Well, the Torah has the description of the Prophet, and the Quran has been revealed to this Prophet who has been foretold in the Torah. Not only that, but it agrees with the Torah in terms of Tawheed and obedience to Allah Jalla wa Ala. Note also a linguistic point. He says nazzalna, and this is slightly different to anzalna. So inzal would simply be sending something down in one go, like a wholesale. Nazzalna, on the other hand, would be sending something down bit by bit, so drip feeding you. And this is how the Quran was sent down, of course, over a course of 23 years. He says, before we natmisa wujuhan. So wujuhan, plural of wajh, means face. As for natmisa, from tamasa yatmisu, tamsan means to efface something, to wipe something off. Now this could have two meanings. Firstly, it could mean we completely wipe your face so that your facial features disappear completely. A second interpretation is that we turn your heads backwards. So your face, of course, is facing forward. Imagine like an owl who can turn his whole face 180 degrees backwards. It's also been said by some mufassirin that it means making people blind, so wiping their eyesight out. In any case, the punishment is severe and humiliating for not believing when the clear evidence and knowledge has come your way. Then he says, فَنَرُدَّهَا عَلَى أَدْبَارِهَا. Radda, yaruddu, means to return or to reject something. So he will turn your faces ala adbariha, backwards, so they become like an owl, completely turning your head 180 degrees backwards. And the reason for this is because when they turn their backs to the guidance, then Allah Jalla wa Ala will turn their faces backwards as a poetic justice. So you wanted to go backwards from guidance to misguidance, then in that case let's turn your faces backwards as well. He says, أَوْ نَلْعَنَهُمْ, or that we should curse them. Notice the iltifat. He was talking about faces, dhamir being ha, as in فَنَرُدَّهَا عَلَى أَدْبَارِهَا, and now he's talking about hum, meaning them, referring to people. So he's saying, or that we should curse them, meaning those who disbelieve from the Yahud, كَمَا لَعَنَّا, as we cursed, أَصْحَابَ السَّبْتِ. Ashab, plural of sahib, meaning companion, as-sabt, as in Yawm as-sabt. Sabt means rest, the day of rest, and the Banu Israel were forbidden from working that day. It was the day of rest. But of course they used the trickery to fish, and thus they were cursed. And that story is well known. They cast their net on a Friday, and so technically did not work on a Saturday. Then they dragged the net out of the sea on a Sunday. So all the fish were caught on a Saturday. So this was a trickery. And Allah Jalla wa Ala tested them by making the fish appear more on a Saturday to tempt them, to see if they passed the test or not. Of course they failed. They say the town was called Ayla, and it was a coastal town by the Red Sea, and Allah knows best. He says, وَكَانَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ مَفْعُولًا, and the amr, the command of Allah, is maf'ula. Maf'ul means to be done. So this is to say the command of Allah is always going to be executed. There is no doubt about it. And the amr of Allah Jalla wa Ala here, it is more likely that he's talking about amr kawni, the universal order. Otherwise, Allah Jalla wa Ala orders many things in the Sharia, and they are disobeyed by many people, in fact most people of the world, so it is not executed. But as for his amr kawni, it is for sure executed, and people have no say in this whatsoever. So, reflecting on this ayah, we of course take the obvious lesson that the people of the book, the Yahud and Nasara, are ordered to believe in what Allah has sent down to the Prophet, meaning the Quran. So therefore it is not enough for them to say, we believe in the prophets of the Bible, and we believe in one true deity, the God of Abraham, and therefore that is enough. We say no, this is not enough according to the Quran. We also find that the Quran testifies to the Torah. Firstly, the Quran says to us that the Torah is the truth from Allah. So it testifies that way. And then secondly, what is in the Quran agrees with what is in the Torah. So in the Torah, there was a description of the Prophet, and the Quran also testifies to the last Prophet. And many other things as well, like we have spoken about in terms of Tawheed and matters which are prohibited and that which is ordered. It agrees in all of these affairs with the Torah. One might object here and say, but the Quran differs in its ahkam to the Torah. We say yes, the ahkam, or at least some of them, are different to the Torah. And this is Allah Jalla wa Ala choosing the correct Sharia for the correct people at the correct time. And the Sharia, meaning the ahkam itself, is subject to change. It can be modified, it can be improved upon. Some rules can become harsher, some can become easier, depending on the wisdom of Allah Jalla wa Ala. And that is simply the right of Allah Jalla wa Ala to do as He wills. And that is of course in accordance with His own wisdom. But when He makes changes, it is always for the better. And because this book and the Prophet and the Ummah is the last of their kind before Yawm al-Qiyamah, it only stands to reason that this Sharia should be the most perfected out of all of these Shara'i'. However, the fundamentals will never ever change, that Allah alone is worthy of worship. We notice an interesting point that Allah Jalla wa Ala avoids direct and personal confrontation. He says, before we wipe out faces. He does not say, before we wipe out your faces, O Yahud. So he's avoiding getting personal. And it's entirely possible that getting personal could rub people the wrong way. We also find poetic justice, how Allah Jalla wa Ala will turn their faces backwards, because they turned backwards from guidance to misguidance. And so misguidance is going backwards, contrary to what the kuffar nowadays say, that the deen of Islam is a backwards deen. We also see the examples of iltifat, firstly with the faces, from the dhamir ha to saying hum, but also he says we will wipe or efface people's faces, so he's using the first person plural, and then he goes on to using the third person singular when he says وَكَانَ أَمْرُ اللَّهِ مَفْعُولًا. We can also take that he mentions the people of the Sabt, and he does not really give much detail about this, which suggests to us that the matter of the people of the Sabt was well known to the Yahud even during the time of the Prophet. And so in this he is using the past to teach people of the present lessons. And this is the wisdom why Allah Jalla wa Ala teaches us the stories of the past, that we may learn lessons and not fall into the same mistakes that they fell into. Ayah number 48. Inna Allah la yaghfiru an yushraka bihi wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha'u wa man yushrik billahi faqad iftara ithman عظيما. So he begins by saying, indeed Allah does not forgive, yaghfir, that shirk be made with him. So ashraka yushriku ishrakan, it means to share. So it is when you share with Allah in His rububiyyah, uluhiyyah or asma wa sifat. Note that it is not necessarily polytheism. After all, atheists are also mushrikun because they share with Allah Jalla wa Ala their desires. They live their life the way they want to. So they are ruled by their desires as if their desires were on the status of Allah Jalla wa Ala. And that is sharing and therefore shirk. And what is apparent from the ayah is that it includes major shirk and minor shirk as well. And this would be the safer option to follow. But he says that he forgives ma duna dhalik, what is lesser than that, liman yasha, for whomsoever he wills. And he says whoever commits shirk, then he has iftara, meaning fabricated, ithman azima, a great sin. So that he has invented a great sin, or if you like, come out with a great sin. Now, At-Tabari says that this ayah comes right after the ayah where Allah Jalla wa Ala is addressing the Yahud. So he says that this ayah means that the Yahud are mushrikun, because he's telling the Yahud that Allah does not forgive that shirk be made with him. So the point is, it's in the context of speaking about the Yahud and ordering them to embrace Islam. So therefore the Yahud and Nasara are mushrikun, and they are guilty of shirk. Others have said that it came down in the context of Wahshi, who killed the uncle of the Prophet Hamza in the Battle of Uhud, and he wanted to embrace Islam, but he felt that he was unable to because he has committed a great sin. And so Allah Jalla wa Ala sends down this ayah saying that every single sin can be forgiven, even killing the Prophet's beloved uncle, that can be forgiven for whomsoever Allah wills, but shirk cannot be forgiven. And when we say shirk cannot be forgiven, it means after your death. As for before your death, then even if you're a mushrik, you can repent and your shirk will be forgiven. But this ayah is speaking about after your death. So if you die upon shirk, then no, this is impossible for shirk to be forgiven, as Allah Jalla wa Ala has made it haram upon himself. We also notice in this ayah a linguistic point, how Allah Jalla wa Ala speaks about himself in the third person singular. Allah does not forgive that shirk be associated with him. And he does that as a ta'lim, similar to how he speaks about himself in the first person plural, using the royal we. Okay, so reflecting on this ayah, we can immediately pick up how great the issue of shirk is, the only sin that can never be forgiven after your death, but that other sins can still be forgiven after your death, however great they may be. And in this there is a rebuttal against the Mu'tazila and the Khawarij, who believe that if you die upon major sin, then you die as a kafir in Jahannam forever. And this ayah tells us no. Jahannam only applies to if you die upon shirk. So if you die upon major sins, then yes, it's possible that you enter Jahannam, but it is also possible that Allah forgives you, as He says, that He forgives anything lesser than that for whomsoever He wills. So it's a rebuttal against the Khawarij and Mu'tazila, but it's also a rebuttal against the other extreme, who say that you can commit whatever sins you want to, Allah Jalla wa Ala forgives all sins except for shirk. But we say no, the ayah says, liman yasha, for whomsoever He wills. So how do you know that you are from those that He wills to be forgiven? So you see, this ayah is so effective because it refutes two extreme opposite views. We also notice how he uses the word iftara, which means to invent or to fabricate. So he's saying that shirk is a fabrication against Allah. So what does that mean? It tells us that the default position for mankind is tawheed. Anything else is a deviation and a fabrication and an aberration from the norm. You might hear many kuffar saying that mankind was always polytheists, and that these monotheistic religions are new. They are derived from the polytheistic tribes and people. And this is complete and utter nonsense. The default position, that to which Adam alayhi salam, the first man, was created upon, is tawheed. So rather it is the polytheism which arose anew from monotheism. And we also take from this ayah one of the characteristics of Allah Jalla wa Ala, which is His Mashi'ah, His will, because He may forgive sins for whomsoever He wills, and then therefore punish whomsoever He wills when He does not forgive their sins. هذا والله أعلم.